Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome back to another music lesson. So I noticed that we have not done one of these on rhythm yet. It's a very important part of music is rhythm. We've done all our lessons so far on pitch, note names, and we did a class on how to approach a kid's first music class. But today we're going to talk about rhythm. And as always, we're going to present the information in a way that I think that most music books and music teachers don't approach it. And it's going to be somewhat of an encyclopedic or comprehensive, maybe not so exhaustive or comprehensive. We'll get into that at the end with a certain concept that's going to help you understand mostly all kinds of rhythm, if that is even a thing. But if you're looking at the chart over here, your basics of rhythm 101 is that notes, that rhythms, and when I say for the rest of this class, when I say notes, I do mean rhythms. So I do use those interchangeably. Just know that I'm not talking about the names like C or C sharp or G or something like that. When I say notes for this class, I am talking about rhythm values. So my point is that rhythms or rhythm notes have values as far as the amount of time they take up in music, and they have a name, which is the type of rhythm that they are called, and those aren't exactly the same thing. So what is rhythm? I mean, rhythm is the beat. I mean, what I like to say about rhythm from a basic perspective is rhythm is the when of music. I mean, notes are going to be flying by. You know, you're going to be playing a certain note or a certain chord, or it could be a non-pitched note that's happening like a drum. But rhythm is the when of music, and it's the when and how long things last. If you think about when or time values in non-musical context, you know, you could say we're on the third week, or you could say during the third week, or the fifth hour of the day. In that, the fifth hour of the day starts at a certain point, but also it lasts for a full hour. It's the same thing with rhythm. You have the notion of a note is going to start at a certain time, and then it's going to last for a certain amount of time. Even if that amount of time is almost imperceivable, if it's something really really quick, it still has a start and an end point, and we'll get into that in a second. So over here you have this little chart, and forgive me, my penmanship is not really what it should be. Trying to work on all that, but we have these symbols over here. We have how long they last, and we have their name. Okay, so this little donut looking thing is a whole note, and it lasts for 4 beats. So if you're playing something, it would happen. I just sang a note that lasted for 4 beats. So we got this note right here, which is the little donut looking thing with a stem on it. It's called a half note, worth 2 beats. We have the dot that's filled in with a stem on it called a quarter note. It lasts for 1 beat. Then you put a flag on top of a quarter note, and that's called an eighth note, and that lasts for half a beat. And then you have a second flag on top of a quarter note or an eighth note with one extra flag, and that's called a 16th note, and that lasts for a quarter of a beat. Now, if you look at what's going on here, the thing that the name and the value do have in common is it cuts in half with each subsequent level. So 4 beats, 2, 1, half a beat, quarter of a beat. And that's not to be confused with their name, because this is kind of the weird thing. It's that even though this is worth 4 beats, it's called a whole note. The reason for that is in most situations, it takes up a whole measure. Now, in a second, there are some exceptions to that, and we're going to show you, maybe not the exceptions, but we're going to show you in a second what a time signature is and what a measure is. So let's actually get to that right now. I mean, you're going to see when you're reading music sometimes you're going to see these symbols, and you're going to want to know what they mean. And really what they mean is this value thing right here. The names for them, it's a little bit misleading, because in some time signatures, and maybe we're putting the cart before the horse here, in some time signatures, this is not going to last for a whole measure, okay? But it is always going to last for 4 beats, okay? So I will say this, when I'm introducing the concept of rhythm for the first time, I treat the names of them as almost incidental. Okay, not totally, but it's like my name is Steven. Why is there's a funny line in the movie Pulp Fiction where she asks, you know, what does the name Butch mean? And he says, well, I'm American. Our names don't mean anything. It's kind of like that. Now they do mean something, but it can be a little bit confusing if you think of a whole note as a full measure all the time, because when the time signature changes, that's not going to be the case. But what is not going to change is the value of said note. So what I would focus on is committing these to memory first, how much they're worth, and that concept is not going to change. So, what is a time signature? If you open up a music book, you're going to see two numbers on top of each other in the beginning of most songs. Now, there are some symbols that imply a certain time signature, like you'll see a C or a C with a slash through it. And that is another way of expressing certain time signatures. But at the end of the day, there is going to be two numbers or a symbol that signifies two numbers on top of each other at the beginning. Now, what do these mean? And this is a thing that I think most music teachers and most music books don't explain it in the most efficient way possible, and they don't really convey the full meaning right away. Now they're going to go one of two directions. Number one, if you see 4/4, very often they're just going to say there's 4 beats in every measure. Okay, and now that happens to be true in this case, but I would say that's a little bit too simple. I mean, if you're dealing with a small kid and you might as well just tell them that there's 4 beats in the measure and not even address the 4 on top of 4 in the beginning. Okay, but there's the other side of the coin where they're going to give you like a full, like academic, multi-sentence explanation of what a time signature is, and that's all well and good. But what I try to do in my classes is I try to give people quick hitting word association, quick definitions that will explain 95 to 99% of it, knowing that we can go on, knowing if they have a question, they can keep asking things about it. But here's my little math formula that I give to people to really try to get them to get time signatures to sink in as quick as possible. There's 2 numbers, and the 2 numbers are the answers to 2 different questions, okay? The top number is how many, or some sort of quantity. It's just a quantity. It's how many. It could be 1, it could be a million, it could be 10. In most cases, it's either 3, 4, or 6. Okay, it's how many. And then the bottom number is which rhythm, or in more words, which rhythm symbol is acting as a beat in this situation. And I often don't even get into the fact that it's acting as a beat. And this is a Rhythm 101 class. I can explain a lot more of this stuff in more detail, and I will in future videos. But for now, to really make it simple in your brain, a time signature is how many of which rhythm happens per measure. It's pretty simple. Okay, so let me, I forgot to draw one thing, and we're going to kind of do some board work together. Now, what 4/4 means is there's going to be 4 quarter notes per measure. And the way that you figure it out, it's very simple. You take your time signature, you draw a fraction with the bottom number, and you put a 1 in the fraction. So literally 4/4 means 4 quarter notes. And I'll draw this up here. Like, say we have a 6/8. Okay? We have 6, and then you draw a fraction with the 8, 1/8. 6 eighth notes per measure. Okay? So if you go down to your little chart over here, and you got it up on the screen right now, so you're welcome to take a screenshot or something like that. But each one of these notes right here are your possibilities for the bottom numbers. Okay? So you could have a certain quantity of a note, and then you could have a type of note that is the denominator, for lack of a better word. It's not exactly a fraction, but it appears as such. So you can have 5 quarter notes. I mean, this is 4, but 4 quarter notes, 5 quarter notes, 10 quarter notes. You could be in 10/4 time, 11/4 time. Okay? You could also have an eighth note as the bottom number. You could be in 6/8 time, 7/8 time, 1/8 time. Now, I'm saying a lot of different time signatures here, and the truth is not a lot of them. There's not many that appear in normal songs, okay? There's 4/4, 3/4, 6/8, 12/8. I mean, as I keep going through the list, there's going to be ones that, 6/4 happens, 5/4 happens. There's famous songs that happen in odd time signatures. I know how to play and understand in odd time signatures, but you as a practical beginner or just layman music enjoyer that's trying to play with other people, you really only need to get good at about 4 of them. Okay, maybe if you're playing like Money by Pink Floyd, I believe that's in 7/4 time. But we can get to all that. For your purposes, there's 3/4, 4/4, 6/8, and probably 12/8. Okay. And this is not explaining each of these time signatures is not the point of today's class. The point of today's class is to understand the basics of rhythm. So we have our rhythm notes, we have their values, and we have their names. And we have the ability to understand a time signature now, which is the answer to 2 different questions. How many of which rhythm happens per measure? So just a quick thought back to the denominators or the bottom numbers, and we'll wrap this video up in a second. This bottom number, this bottom number would be 4 because it's a quarter note. This bottom number would be 8 because it's an eighth note. This bottom number, and I will say this, one quick thing, I'm not going to edit this video. I usually try to do these in one take. I will say that happens to be the significance. I said earlier that the name of the type of note is a little bit incidental, and that would, to me, for our little cheat code where we're making this into a fraction, is the significance of the name. Because if you have this fraction right there, 1/16, that means that your denominator is going to be a 16. It could be whatever it wants, 7/16 or something like that. So that would be a denominator, the bottom number of 16, bottom number 8, bottom number 4, bottom number 2, and bottom number 1. Again, if you get into all those different options, there's not too many songs. It's just like reading the dictionary, okay? Is reading the dictionary how you become a good talker or a good conversationalist? Absolutely not. What reading the dictionary does, it helps you learn words and look up their definitions. It doesn't, and it's like a somewhat exhaustive approach to learning the English language, but it's really not how you learn the English language. You learn the English language by talking and hearing and using the commonly said things, and that and you increase your vocabulary over time. So my point is do not like learn a song in 3/16 just to and think that's going to help with playing like at church or playing in a band or something like that. It might help you understand rhythm a little bit, but it's not going to be this thing that's going to come up that much. So again, there's 3 or 4, maybe 5 time signatures that are going to come up a lot. Now, the last closing thought before we end the video is you're going to see something next to a note called a dot. For instance, you'll see this type of note with a dot next to it. Now, this is the point of today's class is not going to even like really explain. I mean, you can see that what a dot does is multiplies the rhythm of the note by 1.5, and we're already pretty much out of time, so we're not going to get into that today. My point is the dot does not have a set value. The dot multiplies it depends on what the value of the actual note it's dotting is. A lot of teachers will teach you that this is worth 3. Now, it is worth 3. It's worth 3 beats, but I don't have it listed in my chart over here because a dotted half note doesn't really belong in this chart. What we have over here are the normal rhythms, and a dot affects the note that it's dotting. Okay, that's a little, if that went over your head, again, I never know who's really watching these videos. So if that went over your head, that's fine. I'm going to do another lesson in a couple days here on what dots do, what triplets are, and what ties are. And if you can always look, I mean, these charts are all over the internet as well. So, I mean, if you want to look it up just to go ahead and things like that, that's fine. But today's class is rhythm. I mean, rhythm's kind of been in my bones, in my blood, my entire life. And I think that's true to that's true for every single human. It's just some people are more kind of predisposed to rhythm, some more sort of singing, some sort of pitch. Certain people say they have no rhythm. That doesn't exist, in my opinion. I can show you with a simple 5-minute class that everyone has rhythm. Some people it comes more naturally than others for a variety of reasons. So that's our video. That was a review on rhythm. Got note symbols, note values, note names, and you have what's called a time signature, which is 2 numbers on top of each other. That's going to signify how many of which rhythm happens per measure. Let me know down below in the comment section if you have any questions and things like that. always open to new ideas about what we're going to do, what we should do videos on, things like that. I'm here for questions. If you want to share out the channel, I'm going to add this one to the playlist so that we have a. I'm trying to do 30 videos in 30 days. That's what I'm working on right now to try to get through the basics of music, and it's going to help me kind of collect my thoughts for a book that I'm working on, a lesson method book. So that's more information than you asked for. Hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you next time.